Let me start from the beginning. That Monday started out like any other. I arrived at work, filled my coffee cup, and stepped into my office. I'm a former Air Force major, now in training with NASA for a spot on the ISS. If all went according to plan, I should have been heading up there within the next year or so. But you know what they say, man plans and God laughs. As I sat down to look over the files on my desk, my phone rang. I was informed that I had a meeting in the conference room down the hall. A meeting? I don't have anything on my schedule. Who was it with? I asked. He didn't give a name, just said it was urgent. You better hurry, he doesn't seem the patient type. That didn't sound good. I hung up the phone and left my office feeling anxious. What could this be about? I thought. I stepped into the conference room to see a man in a black suit seated at the oval-shaped table. He was a small man but seemed to have a commanding presence. He had sharp eyes behind round glasses and held a yellow file folder trimmed with black and red. He stood as I entered. "Major Royce," he said, shaking my hand. "Sir." "Have a seat," he said, motioning to the chair across from his. "We have some things to discuss." I sat and waited, but the man said nothing. He just sat across from me, studying me for a solid minute. I cleared my throat. "What's this about?" "You're doing exceedingly well in your training," he said as he continued studying me. "I understand you will be going up to the ISS soon. Are you looking forward to taking your place among the stars?" I sat up a bit straighter. "Yes, sir. I should be completing my training within the year. After that, it's just a matter of waiting for crew rotation." The man nodded. "It's an amazing achievement. I'm sure your family is very proud." I smiled, but my smile quickly faltered under the man's lizard-like stare. I had yet to see him blink as he silently studied me. "How would you like to go sooner?" he said without breaking his gaze. "Sooner? I'm not sure I follow, sir. Are you saying I could go up before a crew rotation?" I asked. "No, I mean much sooner, and you wouldn't be going to the ISS." I blinked in confusion. "Wait, are you saying there's another mission planned? Since when, and to where?" "It's being planned as we speak," he said as he placed his hand atop the seal on the file folder. "So I take it you're interested?" I nodded. "Yes, I am." "Good. But before I outline the mission, I need to know you're on board. The information in this file is sensitive," he said cryptically. I hesitated. This situation seemed unusual. "I need to know some details before I make my decision." The man drummed his fingers on the file. "No, I'm afraid this is a time-sensitive issue. If you aren't up for the task, we will have to move on to the next candidate." Now it was my turn to study him. He'd make one hell of a poker player, I thought. His cold calculating eyes gave nothing away. And I didn't like him, but damn it was I curious. After all, this was what I wanted, wasn't it? I joined the military and then NASA in search of adventure. I'm sure there would still be a spot for me on the ISS in the future. "Okay," I said, "I'm in." There was the smallest of grins on the man's face as he broke the seal on the file. "Excellent." He opened the folder and removed a few sheets of paper before handing them over. They were pretty standard government NDAs, nothing I hadn't seen before. "So, CIA?" I asked. "No," he said. There wasn't quite a scoff, but I could imagine it. I signed the NDA paperwork and slid it across to him. "So, who are you?" "You can call me Neelan," he said as he took the paperwork and looked it over. "I'm with an organization called the Bureau of Anomalous Research and Defense, or BARD. You won't have heard of us, and don't bother trying to look us up, no one else has either." "The BARD?" I asked. "And what exactly do you research? Little green men?" He almost smiled. We investigate various phenomena, both foreign and domestic. However, all you are privy to is what's in this file." He removed more documents from the file and passed them over to me. There were schematics, mission statements, and crew information. I scanned over the schematic. It was a massive research station, easily 10 times the size of the ISS. From an engineering standpoint, it was extremely impressive. Multiple labs, a common room and quarters for a dozen crew. It was designed to rotate on a central axis. Using this rotational force or centrifugal force, the station could simulate something close to Earth gravity. It looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. "This is an extremely ambitious project," I said. "Yes, it was." I looked up at him. "Was? You mean we have this?" Nayland nodded. "The Icarus 1 has been in orbit for the past 5 years. "The Icarus 1, I asked. "Didn't Icarus fly too close to the sun?" "Yes, well, I didn't choose the name. Although there is something to be said about self-fulfilling prophecies," he said, leaning back in his chair. I squinted at him. "What's that supposed to mean?" He sat there silently for a moment, then said, 19 hours ago, the Icarus was hit by a massive solar storm. It was completely unexpected and knocked out all communications with the station." "Wow," I said. "Indeed," he said, folding his hands on the table. "We don't know what other systems might have been affected by the storm. Our scientists may not even be alive, or if they are, how much longer they have, hence the urgency. We need you to get to the station as soon as possible and bring our people home. And in the event that the crew is lost to us, we need you to retrieve the research data and any viable test samples." "What kind of test samples?" I asked as I looked over the crew files. The crew consisted mostly of scientists and a few engineers. Nayland drummed his fingers again. "It is our hope that the crew is still alive. In the event that they are not, you will be briefed on the samples and data we need retrieved." I looked up at him, trying to read his expression. The man truly was unreadable. I looked back to the crew file. One in particular stood out. The man held multiple degrees across several fields, including astrophysics, molecular biology, and of all things, zoology. "Who is this Dr. Strom?" I asked. "He's our lead scientist on the station. Anything beyond that is not covered under your current NDA." I nodded. "Okay, when do we launch?" "There is no we, Major Royce. You are going up alone and you launch first thing tomorrow." "What?" I exclaimed, standing up from my chair. "Are you insane? I need time to prepare. We need to run tests on the shuttle. You can't launch a mission on such short notice." Nayland stayed sitting. "Major, we have taken all necessary precautions. We prepare for these eventualities. Normally we have a pilot on standby, but unforeseen circumstances have rendered them currently unavailable." I shook my head. "I don't know about this. This launch is happening tomorrow. If you're not the man for the job..." I put up my hands. No, I can do it." Nayland stood and shook my hand. "Good, we're counting on you. Those people up there are counting on you. Don't let us down." And with that he left. What was I doing? These missions typically took up to 2 years to prepare for, and I was expected to go in less than 24 hours. Needless to say, I didn't sleep much that night. As I lay there in bed, thinking over the insanity of what I was about to do, I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my downloaded music. I smiled when I found what I was looking for and pushed play. As the strumming guitar began to flow from the speakers in my room, I felt my stress begin to melt away. My lips formed the words automatically along with David Bowie as he began to sing about the starman in the sky. I remember listening to it when I was a kid, staring up at the stars in the night sky and thinking that someday I'd get up there. that someday I'd be a starman. The shuttle they had prepared was like nothing I had ever seen before. It was smaller and sleeker than the typical shuttles that NASA uses. I found myself wondering what else the Bard had hidden away from the world. Once I was suited up, Nayland met me before heading out to the launch pad. "Major Royce, I want to thank you for service to this great nation," he said as he saluted. I returned the gesture. "We will be with you on comms, and your helmet is wired with a video feed. Again, if there are no survivors, we will give you further instructions." I nodded. "You can count on me, sir." My heart was pounding as I made my way down the walkway to the shuttle hatch. I couldn't believe this was actually happening. This launch wasn't strictly official. It would never be in history books or documented in any way beyond a sealed file folder marked classified. But I didn't care. I was finally headed for the stars. I settled into my seat and strapped in, running my fingers over the control panels. I snapped my helmet into place, hearing the seals hiss as they pressurized. As I stared up into the cloudless blue of the morning sky, I swelled with pride, thinking of the heroes that have gone before me. 10, 9, 8. The countdown sounded over the shuttle comms. 7, 6, 5, 4. My heart pounded as adrenaline began to flow. 3, 2, 1. The thrusters fired. The shuttle trembled as it began to lift and soar upwards. G-forces pinned me to my seat as the rocket tore its way through the atmosphere. The blue of the sky turned darker and darker until it finally faded to black, and the stars popped and shined with a clarity unlike anything I'd ever seen. As my shuttle left the grip of the Earth's atmosphere, the rocket boosters detached and fell away. "How's it looking up there, Major?" asked Harry, the comms officer. "Everything looks good from up here, Command. How we looking on your end?" "Roger that. All systems show green down here. How's that view?" I looked around in awe that I was finally here. "It's beautiful, Harry. You gotta see it someday." "Major," said Nayland, "proceed on course to the Icarus." "Copy, proceeding on course." The Icarus 1 loomed large and foreboding in the darkness of space. I had been concerned about attempting to dock onto the rotating station, but as I approached, I could see that more than just the comm systems had been knocked out. "Command, looks like the station is completely dark. I'm seeing no signs of power from here," I said. "Copy," came Harry's voice. "Continue to station and commence docking procedure." "Copy, commencing docking." I took a steadying breath as I brought the shuttle into position. I had done this countless times in simulations with a 99.8% success rate. As the docking hatch came closer and closer, that 0.2% burned in my mind. Fortunately, the controls on the Bard shuttle were smoother than I could have wished for. I sighed in relief as the docking hatch slid into place with a satisfying clank. "Shuttle docked, preparing to enter station." "Roger that, Major. Proceed with caution." The airlocks hissed as I unlocked the hatch door to the Icarus. The entry into the station was like a dark portal into the abyss. I activated my helmet's lamps as I floated through the passage. "Command, I'm inside. The station is completely dark," I said. "Copy that. There should be an access terminal on the wall next to the hatch entryway," said Harry. I turned around until I found the terminal and floated over to it. Tapping the keyboard activated the system. I quickly found the lighting controls and switched them on. The lights in the corridor flickered to life, illuminating the white sterile hallway walls and floors. The readings on the terminal showed that the communication systems and the centrifugal engines were offline. "Royce, the offline systems can't be accessed from that computer. You'll need to get to the engine room and the communications deck to assess what damage has been done," said Harry. Disregard that, Major, interrupted Neelan. Search the station for the crew. Their survival and the recovery of our data is the priority here. Copy that, I said as I pushed off the wall and glided down the hallway. The station was eerily silent. After searching through the crew cabins and the botany lab, I made my way into the common area. There was no sign of the dozen crew members to be found. Where could they have gone? I exited the common area and was about to enter the neighboring room when I thought I heard a voice coming from down the hall. I called out, "Is someone there?" A man floated out of a room at the end of the hallway. "Hello," he said as he began slowly gliding towards me. As he got closer, I recognized him. "Dr. Strom, I'm Major Royce. I was sent up here to bring you all home." "Home?" he questioned. "Back to Earth?" As he approached, I realized he looked different from the photo in his file. His skin was gaunt and had almost a purplish tint to it, and his proportions seemed just a bit off. Not by a lot, but just enough to look strange. His head seemed a bit more bulbous than in the picture, and his extremities seemed a little too long for the jumpsuit he was wearing. "Yes, home," I said. "Where are the others?" Strom turned his head side to side as if glancing around for his crew. I'm not quite sure. They should be here. They were here." As he turned, I could see a small bandage covering his right ear. "Dr. Strom, are you hurt?" I asked. He looked at me, his bloodshot eyes filled with confusion. "Hurt? Yes, I was hurt. But I'm all right now. I'd like to go home." I nodded. "Of course. I'll get you home. We just have to find the others first." "The others?" he asked, cocking his head to the side. "Oh, they won't be joining us." No, they won't." "Well, yes, they will, just not like they were." He laughed. "Forgive me, Major. I'm not quite sure what I'm saying." "That's fine. Let's just check that injury, then we'll find the others and get you all home." He nodded and moved into the common area. I floated over next to him and examined the bandage on his ear. Up close, I could see that the white fabric was darkened and crusted with blood. There were dark lines on his skin, spreading out from under the bandage. "When did this happen?" I asked. Dr. Strom shrugged. "Yesterday, last month, eons ago, I can't really tell." He turned to face me. "I'm not alone in here anymore." I tried to give him a reassuring smile, but the way he was speaking was a little too unsettling. When I removed the bandage, I nearly gagged. If I hadn't been wearing my helmet, I'm sure I would have. Dr. Strom's right ear was swollen and discolored. A black viscous fluid oozed out from it and floated in the air between us. "Jesus," I said under my breath before pushing the soiled bandage back into place. I moved back away from him as Neelan's voice came over my comms. "Major, you need to get the data and get off of that station now." I had forgotten about the video feed. Command was seeing everything I was. "What the hell is wrong with him?" I asked. "All you need to know is that Dr. Strom is now designated a biohazard and will not be coming back with you. Get away from him and retrieve my data." "Copy that," I said, never taking my eyes off of Strom. "Where will I find the data?" "Head to the biology lab. The files you need should be accessible from there," said Harry. "I'm on my way," I said as I turned to head down the corridor. "Where are you going?" asked Strom from behind me. I turned back to face him. "I just need to go get some things and look for the other crew members. I need you to wait here until I come get you, okay?" Strom smiled wide. His gums had turned the same oily black as the ooze that dripped from his head. "You're not coming back for me, but that's okay." I didn't know what to say, so I just turned and continued on to the biology lab. I searched every room on the way, but still there was no sign of the crew. "Command, I can't find the rest of the crew." "Never mind the crew," said Neelan. "If they are there, they may be infected as well." Infected with what? I asked. Unknown. BS, I said, losing my patience. You know what this is, Nealon. I want answers. Retrieve the data and samples and I will tell you what you want to know. I grunted in frustration as I pushed off another wall. You damn well better. This whole situation was screwed. I was up here on a top secret research station with an unknown biohazard. If something went wrong, there was no help coming. They wouldn't risk another mission no matter how valuable the data was. I entered the lab and found a cold storage unit containing several vials of a purplish-black liquid. Are these the samples? I asked. Yes, said Nealon. Remove them carefully and place them into the transportation cooler, said Harry, and Major, move quickly. Do not let the samples get too warm. I took a steadying breath and began removing the samples and placing them into the cooler as carefully and quickly as I could. With the samples stored, I glided over to the computer terminal. Command, what do I need to do here? Do I download specific files or just rip out the hard drive? Better just remove the hard drive, Royce, said Harry. Agreed, time is of the essence, added Nealon. I removed the tool bag from the pouch on my suit and prepared to start removing the computer housing, but then I paused. On the screen, I saw the station camera access point. Would Nealon really give me the answers I wanted? I didn't think so. Maybe I could find some answers right here. I sat down the tool bag and selected the video files. Major, we don't have time for this. Remove the hard drive and leave the station, demanded Nealon. I ignored him and scrolled through the camera files looking for anything out of place. There the timestamp showed just before the solar storm. The feed showed Dr. Strom in the biology lab. He was dressed in a biohazard protection suit. On the lab table in front of him was a dark egg-shaped stone about the size of a football. He was attempting to drill into the stone. Suddenly, the camera shook and the lights in the lab went out. Shortly after the storm hit, the emergency lighting came on, painting the lab in shades of red. Strom had stepped away from the table, clearly distressed. But Strom wasn't what I was focused on. The stone on the table had cracked open, a dark fluid leaking out from the cracks. After a moment, Strom noticed it too. He slowly approached the table, bending down and examining the substance. For some reason, perhaps a lapse in judgment, Strom reached out and touched the slimy liquid. As he pulled back, the ooze stuck to his gloved hand. He tried flicking it off, but the ooze seemed to take on a life of its own, clinging to the suit and worming its way up his arm. Strom panicked and flailed, trying to get the dark fluid off, but nothing he did seemed to stop it. The ooze climbed to his head and melted through the hood of the suit, latching itself to the side of Strom's head. The feed ended. I scrolled through the video files trying to find what happened to the rest of the crew. There had to be answers here. Is it time to leave now? Said Strom. I turned to see him in the entryway to the biology lab. The black fluid seeped from his eyes and ran down his face like tears. As he pushed his way into the room, globs of the stuff trailed off of him and floated through the air. I swallowed. No, not yet. Can you tell me what happened to the crew? Strom floated across the room to the observation window. He was silent for a moment as he looked out over the sea of stars. Dr. Strom, I prompted, where are the crew? It is time to leave now, he said as he turned to face me. Royce, get out of there, said Harry. I shook my head as I backed away. I'm sorry, Dr. Strom, but I can't let you leave. Suddenly, Strom launched himself across the room and collided into me. We both fell back into the hallway, bouncing back and forth off of the walls. I tried to push him away, but Strom reared his head back and began ramming it into my helmet over and over again. Blood and black ooze began to cake my helmet's visor. "Get the hell off of me!" I yelled. He didn't relent. Over and over he slammed his face against the helmet glass. I had to do something. I was quickly losing my vision. I reached down to the tool pouch on my suit and felt the screwdriver handle. I began stabbing Strom with it over and over again. I must have gotten a lucky shot because in the next moment he went limp. I couldn't see through the gore coating my helmet, and to my horror, the black ooze was beginning to eat its way through the glass. I quickly unlatched the seals and threw the helmet away. It drifted across the room through floating rivers of the black ooze. Strom's body floated a few feet away, the screwdriver lodged into his eye socket. I was about to make my way back to the shuttle to get the hell out of there when I realized that his undamaged eye was still following me. "Dr. Strom." His body twitched. "Dr. Strom is not here," he said, his voice hauntingly monotone. "Who are you? What are you?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Do you truly not know?" he asked in that same monotone voice. "Why else would you reach for the stars if not to climb to the heights of those who came before you? Or is it simply hubris that drives you? When you look up at the stars, do you not see us looking back? Have you so easily forgotten your old gods? They have not forgotten you." I shook my head. "I don't understand. You are not meant to. You cannot stop what is coming." "I stopped you," I said. "You killed a vessel, nothing more. There will soon be another." As he said that, I felt something cold and wet hit my ear. In a panic, I reached up, trying to get a hold of the oily fluid, but it was too small. I felt as it squirmed and wriggled through my ear and into my head. "No, no, no, what did you do?" I demanded, but Strom's corpse had gone still. I reached for the comms button. "Command. Hello, can anyone hear me? Naylan. Naylan, you bastard." I thought it had gone dead, but then I heard Naylan's voice. "Major, I can only imagine how you are feeling right now, and I am truly sorry. But I need you to continue your mission. Get the samples in the hard drive and stow them aboard the shuttle," he said. "You can fix this, right? You have a cure, you have to." I could hear the panic in my voice. "Once the samples and data are stowed, I need you to stay on the Icarus until a rescue crew arrives." "How long will that take?" I asked. "Will I still be me when they get here?" Naylan was silent for a moment. Finally, he said, "Finish your mission and wait for further instructions." "God damn you, answer me," I yelled. "He's gone," said Harry. "I'm sorry, Royce." I sighed in exasperation. "What do I do, Harry?" "I wish I had answers for you," he said. "Be careful up there on those wax wings." Wax wings. I floated there for a moment, feeling lost. I thought that Strom was out of his mind, the things he was saying. But what if he wasn't? This was all beyond my understanding. If Strom or whoever was speaking through him was right, then there was no way Naylan could hope to control whatever this was. I knew what Harry meant now. I couldn't let this get back to Earth. I made my way down the winding corridors of the station, heading for the command deck. On the way, I passed through the common area and down the hallway where I had first encountered Strom. As I passed by the room he had come from, I heard a thud impact the door. I turned back to read the label above the door. "Engine room." Hesitantly, I reached out and slid the door open. When I saw what was inside, I no longer doubted what I had to do. I had found the rest of the crew. Their bodies were tangled together in a massive dark web like slime. Their torsos were bloated and round as something wriggled within them. Arms and legs jutted out of the mass at odd angles, twitching occasionally. But the most haunting part was the way that all of their eyes had turned to face me as I entered the room. They were still alive. None of them spoke. They only looked at me, pleading for help, asking me why this had happened. I was shaking in terror as I backed out of the room and slid the door closed. I had to end this. I could feel the entity in my head now. It twisted and warped my perceptions. I thought I was heading for the command deck, but I kept finding myself back at the hatch to my shuttle. After the third time of circling back to the hatch, I realized I had to remove the risk of leaving the station. With a heavy heart, I reached for the disconnect lever. The thing in my head screamed in rage as I watched my shuttle drift off into the void of space. My mind melted away and reformed over and over. I kept finding myself in rooms that I had no memory of entering. Eventually, I found myself on the command deck. I realized I was in control. The other was dormant for the moment. I glided over to the control console and found these station thruster controls. Space stations occasionally require course corrections. For this, they use jets of compressed air to propel the station in the desired direction. I felt the entity rising to the surface as I worked. I had to hurry. I made the calculations and set the course. With the push of a button, I engaged all of the station's compressed air thrusters and launched the Icarus one on a collision course for the sun. I made sure to empty the reserves for the thrusters as well. If I lost control completely, I didn't want the entity redirecting the station. As the thrusters fired and emptied, I felt the entity asserting control. It tried to stop the launch, but it was too late. I felt my mind breaking apart as my fists smashed against the thruster control console and I screamed in someone else's rage. At last, the entity receded and my body was mine again. I made my way to the command terminal and began typing out this message. I can only hope the station's internet connection will hold out long enough to get the message out. You deserve to know the truth. There are things out here in the void. Watch the stars. Good luck and goodbye. Signed, Starman.